Good evening, everybody. Oh, I was waiting for like a school kind of good evening, Dave Ellery. Oh, did you? All right.
Good evening, Mr. Ellery.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. This is the first community group that we have done. Hello, lovely. What's your name?
Her name's Scarlett, but we call her Lulu.
Oh,
my Lulu.
Hello, my Lulu.
Please come, just come quick. Just come and say hello quickly. And this is Daisy. Hello, everybody. Right, there you go.
Oh, they're beautiful. No, welcome everybody. It's our first community group since our retreat, and it's nice to have the retreat faces online. Right, I have to just, for people who are new to our community group, probably aren't new to Rusty, but Rusty will be in and out throughout the night. He will piss on the floor, so there'll be some cleaning up going on at some point. He'll want to, so forgive us, we have to, he just dominates the house. This evening, Jen and I were thinking it would be really nice to hear from the retreat participants.
I think because we haven't actually caught up on today's messages, but with what we've seen on the group, there's been so much insight and change that we just thought it'd be really nice to hear from people and for other people to hear who weren't on the retreat also, because I know that us all being like, we've loved being able to still do the online retreats, but doing the in-person one again, we sort of realized how much happens in the breaks and people sharing with each other and conversations around the dinner table. Like that's such a huge part of what kind of the magic that happened over those few days. So we just thought it'd be really nice if people wanted to share anything they've seen or anything that's come up for them since. We'd love to hear it, and I'm sure the newer people that weren't there will still find it interesting.
Yeah. So if anybody would like to say anything, please go ahead. And likewise, people who've not been to the retreat as well, this is open to you as well. It's open to everybody. And if nobody's got anything to say, I'm sure we'll drag something out. We'll figure something out. Just saying this is Denham, this is for, we just thought it'd be nice to hear from people.
I was listening.
Oh, right.
I'm cooking dinner at the same time. So, well, listen, I'll go first. I think everybody has seen, I don't know whether because it was my first time sort of experiencing what I experienced with you and everybody. But listen, as I said this evening, what a difference a week makes. I don't even know where to start, but I feel like I've not hogged it, but just I don't know. It's the outlet that I needed. I have seen now that I've shut the world away. I pushed the world away. I've shut myself away from the world, and I've made myself so unhappy and so deeply miserable. I can't even tell you. And yeah, just look at what I feel I've achieved in the last few days. The reason I've kind of ended up with you guys on the retreat was fundamentally the breakdown of my marriage and my divorce and everything that I was struggling with. And and I came straight. And Monday evening I came back. I hadn't looked my wife in the eyes, my ex-wife. Let's just say call her Vanessa. That's easier for me. I hadn't looked Vanessa in the eye for 8 months. I'd turn up, but we share the girls 1 week on, 1 week off, and I would turn up. I'd bib the horn. The girls would come out. I might, on the odd occasion, I would get out of the car, but I would never acknowledge her in any way, shape, or form. And as far as even saying his name, as far as David is concerned, well, you know, before, well, yeah, it's all right. Before, before I came on that retreat, the feelings I harbored for that man, it's almost, I wouldn't want to say them out loud, but they weren't pleasant ones. And I saw him and I said, hello, evening, how are you doing, mate? And he went, yeah, all right, you? I went, yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Just, that incident, it wasn't pre-planned. I didn't know that was going to happen as far as David was concerned. My intention was to ask Vanessa to come to the front door and give her a hug. And I got into the car and it completely threw my girls. It really threw them. Daisy sat in the front and she was just kind of looking I could see her looking at me, and I was like, I know that was a bit mental, wasn't it? And then and so that was the first night, and then the following evening, we went to my parents and had dinner. Which was massive. I fell out with my mum. I actually looked back at the messages. It goes all the way back to the start of August, but that was 35 years in the making almost. Our relationship has been incredibly fractious for a very long time. And it was effortless. It was, as I've said on the group chat, it was as though I saw her yesterday and we've never had a crossword. So, even on the group chat, even today, it just keeps coming and it keeps coming and it keeps coming. And, waking up at 2 o'clock this morning and, just an understanding coming as far as my youngest daughter is concerned, and where she is and why she is being the way that she is. So as I said on the group chat, it was not only sitting and talking and hearing the pair of you speak so eloquently and so beautifully about everything that you spoke about, but it was listening to everybody else and seeing their moments, which has inspired me to do what I've done. Now, I'm not trying to achieve everything in the first few days. There are still other people that I need to go and see and speak to. But those that may be a little bit harder than my parents and even my ex-wife. But anyway, I just want to say thank you to you two and to your family, because as I said the other night, you're one hell of a family, and that inspired me. It's almost like I feel anything's possible. And I'm not a religious person in any way, shape, or form. I'm fascinated by religion, always have been. But I'm not a religious person, but I feel reborn in a way that I can, it's just, yeah. I think I'll leave it there and pass it on to anybody else that would like to speak, and I'll keep my mouth shut because I feel like I've spoken so much. I've got so much from that group chat, and Julian, whoever set that up, listen, it's just, how wonderful was that?
Awesome, dude. Beautiful. Reborn, eh? It's funny. When I grew up and I went to church, and they talked about the virgin birth, and we used to move these little characters around in the set of the nativity, and the little Virgin Mary, oh, look at her, she didn't have sex. She gave birth. God impregnated her. I don't know. How did we miss the point so off? How do we get so off the mark? I was listening to there's a book called The Lost Chapters of Thomas where he talks about the virgin birth, where Jesus speaks about the virgin birth, that birth, the rebirth that takes place within an individual's soul when it reconnects with itself and awakens, steps into a new world, steps into a new reality. And it's like it's taken, here I am in my life, the rebirth from within, from mother wisdom, as it says, isn't it? It says, you are reborn from mother wisdom. I think that's beautiful. What you said just then, mate, that is fantastic. And, it's all those little simple acts of kindness and forgiveness just make our lives easier. Just makes it all easier. Just see past the ego. That was beautiful, dude. Denim, thank you so much, man.
In the early days around Sid, like transformations were happening like that a lot. Like everyone still speaks about some of the stories, and I've definitely seen transformations on retreats, and we've loved doing this work. But this retreat has just felt so special. Like looking at the group and some of the things that have changed for people, we've just been like sat there almost in disbelief that so many people could get so impacted. Like, I don't know why it's disbelief, because I know that I got impacted in my own life, but then I also know that a lot of other people on the course I went on didn't really hear anything. But when we went around the room at the end of the retreat and then following the chat, I've just been sat there going, wow, like the power of us all coming together. And
but like Denham just said, Julie, and I never did find out who the hell else it was.
Julie can't remember.
Julie.
We were sat having a chat and someone said it.
Well, both of you, Julie and whoever the mystery person is, it was so nice to have that, wasn't it? For us to get the feedback, to sit there and to go to bed of an evening, look at tap on that link, and then just look at what people are putting, and it was beautiful. So no, thank you, Julie. Thanks for doing that. They'll be very organised.
Yeah, and thank you for telling the group about tonight, because I was supposed to do that and I didn't till today.
It's generally what happens. If you want to join community group, check Facebook that day and you'll find out.
I think there was a group of us talking. So Maggie said a poem, and I think maybe we were sitting at the table and there was a group of us talking, and it was a bit of a sort of like group thing where one person was sort of saying it'd be nice to share, and then someone else suggested a way to share. You know what I mean? It wasn't just one person. It just was like a group of us talking about sharing Maggie's poem is where it came from. But I can't remember who was sitting at the table.
Oh, well, Julie, now you're on.
Now I'm talking. Would you like me to talk?
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. So that last day, you asked me to share first, and I was really pleased because I got it out of the way. I said my bit, and then afterwards, after saying my bit and letting go of your nerves or whatever you do, I could really hear. And Dan, I don't know if he went next, but I heard him next, and he said, "Fear is a vibration." Well, that's what I thought he said, and he said he'd realised fear was a vibration, and a vibration couldn't hurt him. And I sat there and I just thought, yeah, but it ain't off. Held me head back. And I never would have said to you I was a fearful person. People that knew me before, I don't think would really think I was massively fearful, and mine's just been an absence of the fear that I've been noticing, and just that absence is massive. I find it quite funny telling people that don't know anything about 3P, which is everyone I know. And the best way I've found to describe it to them is, so like when you're at the big shopping centres and you're in the big lifts and you look over the edge and you go, oh, because like looking from up high, that feeling of sick, like make your stomach going. And it, to me, what you did is I could then be in other situations that previously would have scared me. The one that happened on a Saturday night was being out sitting next to Dave and looking up at the trees. And I would have had that feeling of my stomach going, looking at them trees, thinking, oh, in a dark wood, bit creepy, bit dangerous. And it was just gone. And I've just noticed that so much that it's just gone. So I've done a lot more things that I sometimes wouldn't have done. The other day I went for a walk by myself, and coming out of the park, there was an alleyway, trees either side. Halfway down the alleyway was a guy who had stopped with his dog, big guy, something on his head. And normally that would be like, oh God, got to walk past him. He might be a baddie. And walking towards him, and I just spooked his dog. And And I just laughed. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry I spooked your dog. And this big guy took his hat off and started chatting to me. And so beautiful. All them people who previously I think I've been a bit scared of. And, you know, judged, oh, they might be a baddie and might want to hurt me. And but now I just keep talking to them. Coming home on the train, I couldn't shut me up. Talking to all these strangers. It's lovely.
Julie's now the weirdo on the train. Awesome. Glass. Hey, isn't it? I'm always the weirdo on the train. Couple of things I wanted to question you about. I was sitting next to Dave and the trees, and I had no fear. Were you afraid of me?
No.
I did.
Didn't even occur to me, that one.
Taking the piss. It's interesting though, isn't it? It's like when we listened to that SID recording, for those that weren't on the retreat, we put on a SID recording, so it was from the late 70s, 80s, and so it was done on a tape. And so, you know, a tape, we used to listen to tapes. I don't think there's anybody on this screen that I can see who's didn't used to listen to tapes. We used to listen to tapes, and we never questioned, oh yeah, Denham, you were too young. We never questioned it about the quality, did we? The quality of the sound. And we listened to a tape of Sid Banks, and it was crackly, it was hard to listen to. And it's like, then CDs came along and just changed the paradigm of sound. And it's like that for this. It's like, you don't realize the crap you've lived out of until you see it.
It's like Julie said, like the absence of it.
Yeah.
Has been loud in your life.
Beautiful, love.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
And also thank you for coming on. Like Julie said to me, I've wanted to come to these community groups for a while, but I haven't wanted to be on Zoom, and it's kind of been nervous. So just doing this is new for you, and having your video on. And
well done, love.
Thank you.
I say well done. Julie, let me ask you, what did you do? To do all that, what did you do?
Nothing that I could tell you. Somehow just heard something. I couldn't even tell you what I heard. Like I say, I remember Dan's comment about the vibration and thinking, yeah, but it ain't half held me back.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you start to see people change, you ask them, what did you do? The amount of people who just go, didn't do anything. It just fell away, just vanished. You see our intellect gets in the way, and it tries to make these things go away. In the making it go away, we're actually making it. We're keeping it alive, we prolong it. I love that. Thank you, sweetheart. Who else? Thanks, Julie, love. Like I say, this isn't just for retreat people. If the people online who never came to the retreat, if there's anything you want to say, please go ahead.
Well, seeing as no one else is saying anything, I'm going to jump in again if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So today, as I said, things just keep coming and coming and coming. Whether I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning and realised something about my youngest daughter, so today, on Tuesday, I wasn't going to go back to work this week, but then Tuesday, Monday, I thought, no, I'll just go back. Don't waste. There was no reason not to go back to work. The reason I didn't want to go back to work was because I didn't want to go back to work. And I got there on Monday morning, and we had further dramas between my youngest daughter and my ex-wife, Vanessa. Literally, as I'm putting my first boot, I work in construction. I'm a site manager. I was literally putting my first boot on when the phone rang, and I I went back on the site and I realised that nobody had done anything when I've been away, and the place had just turned back to the way it was when I first turned up, and nobody cared. And I just and it's not me to walk away from anything. It's almost like the bigger the challenge, the more interested I am, But I went back up to the office, and there's the project manager there, and we had a brief conversation. I won't go into details, but when he's ultimately when his comment to me was, well, whatever, I was like, oh, that's the problem. And I put my stuff on and I walked out the office, and I've never felt so liberated in my life. And then today, so a guy that I worked with 5 years ago, and I didn't realise until today that when I saw him, because I drove up to Hitchin, seeing as I've got some free time, I drove up there. And we realised that it's been 5 years since we've actually seen each other. 5 years since we worked together, and we always kept in contact because he was, he's compared to me, a relatively young man, and today it was so wonderful to see him, because I kind of took him under my wing all those years ago. And in conversation, and I was only I just thought I'd pop in just to go and see him, because I'm going to end up working where he is. And that boy, since I knew him, he was an assistant site manager, has flown. He's now a senior site manager, and I'm going to go in and work underneath him. And it just even being there today and just seeing him, and I said to him, I'm so proud of you. There was just this, like, it's amazing to see you doing what you're doing. And he said to me, and we've kept in contact, but not deeply. We're not really in each other's lives at all. And he turned to me and he said, you taught me how to manage people because you cared. And as I put on the group chat, he was at the time. I remember him being. There was a lot going on in his life. He'd just broken up with his girlfriend after 7 years. He'd fallen out with his parents. Kind of sounds a little bit familiar. And he was in a very dark place. And he said something to me, which, and I never knew that this had happened at all. But he said to me, if do you know what, you showed me. He was at a place where he wasn't too, he would have rather have not been here than be here. And he had said that I met you, and I saw that there are good people in the world. And he said, if I hadn't met you, I don't think I'd be here today. And I never knew any of that. But as I said on the group, it just shows you a little bit of love goes a long way. And I'll leave you.
Certainly does, man. Certainly does. Love it. Beautiful, dude.
Hello. Ironically, I think what I found at the retreat was presence, and I didn't think I was going to be very present there because of everything going on. I can't tell you how present I feel in my life, and even with stuff going on, it's like so a bit of manic day, and that seems to be my life. I'm trying to read Slowing Down to the Speed of Life, because I'm very aware of how full my life is. And I went down to Torbay this morning and to see John, and then went out to the butcher's that was closed because his daughter was in Torbay as well. So it came back, and I was so aware that it was, I could have got really uptight because I'd wasted my time going out to the butcher's, and it was like, but as I was driving through the avenues of trees that were changing to the autumn colours, it was just, I couldn't get upset about it. On the train journey on the way home, you know, it was a nightmare. The carriage caught on fire, and then we all got crammed from 8 carriages into 4. And I was therefore lost my seat, and I'm sitting on a suitcase in an alleyway, and I could feel myself starting to think about it. And I thought, well, why are you doing it to yourself? So I then looked out the window and saw the deer in the field and just smiled. And it was just, every time I caught myself getting cross and caught up, so I just got present again. And I don't think I've ever had that level of presence. Yeah. And if I say that's all I got out of the retreat, it's like, that all is massive. It's huge. I spend so much time caught up in my head, and trying to fix problems. And instead of which I'm sorry, that's Percy. I'm not doing I'm not doing anything. I'm just going with what feels right in the moment. So thank you. Brilliant.
Love it, Cheryl. It was so lovely having you there, love. Yeah, it was interesting because we in the group, hello Kat, we in the group knew what the state of play was like at home, and just watching you handle it was beautiful.
Thank you. I cannot believe the way I handled it. I must be honest. It felt, you know, all the way through. I think if I'd been anywhere else, I'd have had a very different experience. I couldn't, you know, it kind of shocked me. Not now. If I had that experience now, I would handle it in the same way. But it just, I don't know. There's something about it. It just felt.
There's a few people online at the moment who don't know what could you just say what the crack was with your husband?
He was in hospital. We didn't know. He went into hospital the day before I was due to come up on the train, and we had no idea, but he couldn't breathe, so we knew it was pretty serious. So
yeah, it was fascinating. It was beautiful to watch, and just to watch you, not in a kind of horrible way, but it was just to see your presence. There was so much presence within you in that moment, Cheryl. It was beautiful, love. And I'm glad he's well.
thank you. Yes, yeah, he is. He's fine. So yeah, and it really was that presence that I wasn't getting caught up in, where I could have gone with my thinking, and in the past would have gone with my thinking, and it was kind of, until I know what I'm dealing with, I'm not going to think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever had that ability in the past.
Beautiful, love.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
I remember getting the email from you, Cheryl, where you were like really honest about, because me and Cheryl have known each other for like 6 or 7 years, isn't it? Since you came to the retreat, and Cheryl had always thought I didn't like her. And I think you heard me speaking about how often that's happened in my life, because even though I've completely changed to come across the principles, I can still be quite uncomfortable in myself, like in social situations. And I wouldn't necessarily just go up to someone and start talking. I kind of wait for them to come to me. And Cheryl had interpreted that I didn't like her.
I interpreted it that she was stuck up her own arse.
You did. But it was so cool that you actually then said, and then we got to have a bit of a conversation about it, because I never would have known that you felt like that. And you see how easy it is to make assumptions and think that we know something. And yeah, but I've had that a lot in my life, so I am a bit more aware of it now. You just call me Southern.
Yes.
But lots of people here are Southern.
Yeah, no, that's why I said it very quietly.
But Jenny, I also think that's about me as well, because that's my story. That's, you know, I've spent my life thinking people don't like me, so that's, you know, it's equally my responsibility as yours.
I take no responsibility for it. Jenny stuck up her own ass.
Hiya.
Yeah. Hi, love.
I definitely got a reminder of who I am, who we all are, and that sort of just that beauty of that interconnection of it all, and the more you're present, the more you're sort of awake to all those roots interconnecting with everyone, and I'm just seeing it more and more as everyone's been sharing their journeys. Like, it's just so obvious that that's the case, and it's really nice to see it again. And I ended up driving back from the service station after I picked up my trainers from you guys, and I didn't have any plan, but I ended up going all the way down to Somerset to see these starlings in the morning. And usually when I get to a car park, I can often get like a bit edgy, like, but I just was in such a warm, and I still am actually, just this warm feeling of love. Like, there's just such a warm feeling, like I'm just sort of snuggled up, you know, just in this bubble. It's just lush. And yeah, I saw how I've seen who I am, and then seeing all the ways I'm protecting this identity, which isn't even real. All these ridiculous ways I'm like protecting this identity, which isn't real, in all these relationships. And it was so good to see. It was just so like, oh, it's like that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. And so I spoke to my kid's dad, and I was just sort of said, like, I'm done with it. I'm not gonna play this. I just don't want to play this game anymore. It's not helping me. It's not. And then he when we saw each other last night, we just had a sort of relaxed conversation, and it was just warm, and it was nice, and it was just real, and it felt like just beautiful, you know, nothing special, like nothing came of it, like it, but it was just that, it didn't take anything from me, it gave to me, and that's just a blessing. And I don't know what's going to happen or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but just for each moment to step into what feels better rather than what I feel is going to protect something which isn't really real, you know. And then I woke up this morning, and I've like got a temperature, I'm like really ill, my son's got chicken pox, and like covered with spots and the temperature, and my other son's losing the plot, and we just had a day, and I just feel so grateful that we're all so ill, because I've just got to snuggle up with them, and like, you know, like when you're not with your children, it's really hard. And so to then get a day when you get home and you're all just ill, it's so cool, because you just like watch random films and just hug each other all day. And so yeah, I feel really, really happy that we're all ill, and Yeah, because it just gives me more of a chance to be with them. Yeah, that's me.
Love it. Love it,
Can I
Seth.
just jump in very quickly? I said on Sunday morning at the last morning of the retreat that Sarah looked like a different person, and you look even more beautiful now.
Love it. She did. You Sarah did. She, like, your face changed. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to start with. But it's interesting, isn't it? How often do we actually have a conversation with somebody without an agenda or without having to come across a certain way? How often do we just meet people where they're at from where we're at? Like, in that presence, in that moment, how often have we actually done that in our life? And it's such a beautiful thing, Sarah, the way you describe. I love the way you described that. It's like, it wasn't really anything, but it was just really beautiful. And that is what connection is. Connection is beautiful. And I love tonight's conversations, because so much of it has been about talking about our exes. And it, you know, that's been one of the most beautiful telling things in my family is we all can still love one another. You know, the love evolves. Like we said on the last day of the retreat, it can be really easy, and it can be really easy to think there isn't enough love to go around for all these people. Well, I've got kids, so there's only a finite amount of love, you know, and, you know, I've got to love them, so I've got to focus all my love on them. Therefore, I can't have any space in my life for love for you. But love doesn't work like that. Love's infinite. We can love everybody. We can love the entire universe, ourselves. And it's like when you start to wake up to that and you start to extend this love out to your exes and stuff like that, you never know. Just all these beautiful possibilities open up.
So I was laughing at Pebs giving your mum lots of love.
Oh, there you go, Pebs. Yeah, look at him. Yeah, I love hearing this. I love listening to this. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. The thing is about this shit as well, once you know it, you can't unknow it. You'll carry it with you. You carry it with you. You carry it with you everywhere you go. It's like once that jump has taken place in awareness, Julie, you can't explain a thing, how you understand it, how it all came about. No, of course you can't.
So, Pebs, he's
I
just
know, bless his little
giving
heart.
love.
He's giving a lot of love. Anybody else?
I'll have a
Ange.
yeah
Hit him, love.
about my ex.
Your ex. Let's go and do your ex. Yeah.
Well, as I said on the retreat, that I actually knew what I thought love was, but I didn't until I did that retreat, and it just felt so different. Anyway, the following morning, I had to go around and see Matt, and when I got there after his tough weekend, he was just sat in the dark on his chair, and I went, hiya, and he just looked at me, and I went over to him and I hugged him. I hugged him for longer than probably what felt comfortable for him, because I'm not sort of doing that with him anymore, but I just hugged him and didn't say anything to him. And I stepped back from him eventually and looked at him, and he just smiled. And I said, how you doing, honey? And he said, I'm better now you're here. So I said, right, come on then. I said, we'll go do something. We'll go and, have a nice day out somewhere where you want to go. And I said, where do you want to go? And he said, Satan, which is St. Carew on the northeast coast. So I said, right, yeah. I said, okay, then we'll do that. And rather than judging him for just who he was, I was just with him. and we had such a beautiful time, and you wouldn't have thought that there would been anything wrong with him like they had this weekend. He was so, I don't know, he was just in that moment, and so was I. And it was just a lovely, lovely time. So anyway, I'd taken him home and that was all sorted. So I'd really enjoyed to spend that time with him, which is something I never said I could do, but I did. But anyway, I've had another couple of times out with a couple of my friends, and they were saying to me about, oh, what have you done and how was it and everything. So I was explaining to them, and they were saying, oh yeah, but yeah, that can't be true, but. And I was explaining what I knew and what I heard. And one of the girls said to me, oh yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah, I might join the community group. Anyway, it was about an hour later after I got home, and I got this message from her saying, can you give me the link for the community group? And I said, yeah, I said, of course. I said, I don't know when it's on, because obviously I didn't know that this was going to be on there. So I said, yeah, I said, of course I will. Anyway, I sent it to her, but she couldn't have come tonight, but I think she's going to join, not next week or the week after or whatever. But then someone else has said to me, you seem so much happier, just since the last time I saw you. And I said, well, I said, I do. I said, I'm seeing people differently myself. I'm not seeing them in their story. I'm seeing them for who they are. Even down to my mum. I'm seeing her now for who she is, not for all the problems that she creates during the day. So it's coming from a different place of love, and it seems a lot easier. It's not hard to be in a room with them anymore. So yeah, although there's nothing big there, it's little, little things. It's lovely. It's really nice. Funny thing is as well, and this is something else, the day after I was seeing everybody and I'm going, oh, there's Margaret. Oh no. Oh, there's Sally. No. I kept seeing people. I kept thinking it was them. And I think, oh no, it's not them. I think I'm missing everyone.
None of that is small, Ange.
Hmm.
Fucking hell. What I'm hearing tonight is it's phenomenal. I do this work personally because I love it and I want to see a different world. I know we can have a new world. I know we can do it. We can have it. It's there. It's ready for us to pick up. It's waiting. It's here. And the only way we're going to walk into this new world is when people start to love each other, help each other, come together. It's the only way. And all I've heard so far tonight is people loving one another, forgiving one another, walking into new worlds themselves within their own life. That's why I do this work. Because this is what inspires me. You lot inspire me to do the work I do. I'm loving this. And none of that was small love. You've shared love with people. It's amplified in consciousness. So tied up in the material world. It's all made of consciousness. It's all made of energy. I often call consciousness the ultimate democracy. the ultimate democracy. You don't need democracy in the world. If we've got democracy in consciousness, it'll take care of all of that. It will fucking wipe the floor with what we think is democracy on governmental democracy. Consciousness of humanity. When that moves, this whole thing's over. And that's what's happening. There's a tidal wave coming, there's a tsunami coming. It's building now, and every single one of us is a wave contributing to this tsunami that's coming through this world now. Quicker and quicker and quicker. No such thing as small. Not in love. Beautiful. Thank you, Angela.
Can I ask,
Xander, my
do
lad.
you mind if I ask Ange a question?
Dude, fire away.
The last time I was in the Zoom call here with you guys, Ange had there was something about an insight around some kind of anxiety. I know you remember what I'm talking about, Ange.
Yeah.
How has that, I mean, I'll let you describe it rather than me try and describe it or tell about it. How has that developed, or has it, or?
No, it's absolutely brilliant. It was based around like health anxiety, and I had all these rules put in place, and about what I could eat and what I couldn't eat after certain times, because if it was after, say, 6 o'clock, something bad was really going to happen to me, and I'd get pains in my tummy. And if I had like chocolate after 6 o'clock, I'd get a migraine in the night. And there was all these different things that I'd put in place, and any niggles I got were just like really serious things. And just since that night, when I realised, when I was saying I have, or it was one of the other, I've forgotten his name, who was on,
Mark.
he was talking about, yes, and I was talking about he was talking about I am. And then it suddenly dawned on me that I kept saying to myself, I have health anxiety. So of course I have, because I've told myself I have. So I have, but I didn't. And now I still do get them niggles and stuff, but I get them and they go. And it's like, we've been to this retreat and eating after 6 and 7 o'clock at night, and I'm having puddings and I'm having main meals, and none of it created a problem for me at all. That retreat, I've never been away on my own ever, because I was scared of what was going to happen to me physically if I had gone anywhere on my own and there was no one around, and I put all these things in place. I did that. I slept in the room with somebody who I didn't know apart from on here. And it was fabulous. It was great. It's really opened up an awful lot of things to me, all around that health anxiety as well. So I know I have innate health. Everything else is just a thought. Obviously, I will get niggles and aches and pains and that because I'm getting on now, but it's a bit different now. It doesn't mean anything, and it's been great anyway. So.
Awesome, brilliant.
Your story, Ange, reminds me an awful lot of the film Gremlins. Don't feed her after 7.
Yeah.
Don't feed her after 7.
Well, I didn't turn into anything bad.
No, you didn't. Very good. Thank you. And so thanks, man. Xander, thanks for the question, dude. And the mogwai. Mogwai? Mogwais are cute.
Yeah, well, not the way you're meaning it, not.
They were still cute. Anybody else?
Another thing which I think I've seen more from seeing in myself that I'm made up and I'm protecting this thing which isn't real is with everyone else as well. And I just feel this sense of just compassion and forgiveness, in the sense of like, so my son, when he doesn't get his own way, he's 6, and you know, he hits, he attacks, he throws things. He's like pretty much messed up the house big time today and hit me and his brother. And I just totally understood exactly. There was just this, I just understood. I just got it. There was like, it was just, yeah. And I think seeing that he's just doing what he's doing to get to do his best in that moment, and we all are, and yeah, it's, I suppose it's just a bit of a way off me to stop thinking it's so what I used to always do is, like, as soon as there was behavior which I didn't like in my kids, and I still do and I still will sometimes, but I tend to just go, oh, that's about me, oh, that's because I'm not doing this and I'm not doing this, and when you realize that there is no me, you know, you've just learned stuff along the way. Like I behave like the way I do just because my mum told me this, my brother told me this, blah 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 blah. Like, we just learned stuff, and then we just repeat it, and that's all we're doing. That's all we're all doing, and it's just like, and that's all everyone's doing, and that's it. And it's like, and we do our best, and sometimes we feel like, you know, I don't know, there's just a forgiveness in myself and an understanding. And I really saw that when my son lost the plot this afternoon.
Interesting. Like you stop a timeline dead, and from the death of that is born a new thing, a new way of being. What you're saying there reminds me of I had a name just a second ago in South Africa. One of the ladies we worked with in South Africa, oh, she's gorgeous. Y begins with Y.
Yolanda?
No, it wasn't Yolanda, was it Yolanda?
From the television.
Yeah.
Yolanda.
Yes.
Yolanda.
Yolanda. Is it like Yolanda? Oh, I remember we did 3 days in this charity in a township on this. It's called Kailicha. It's on the suburb of no, it's called Mufulweni Township on the suburb of Kailicha Township, which is pretty frigging violent. And Yolanda came in and she said she lives with her mum and she's got a couple of kids, and one of the kids had destroyed the TV.
She's using a ball inside.
Yeah, he used the ball inside and smashed the TV. And she said, and she just sat there so peacefully. So she'd come to this community. She'd done out the first or second day or something, and the third or second day, whichever day it was, she came back. She sat there. She said, "My kid broke the TV last night. We can't afford to replace it." And she said, "My mother really wanted me to beat him." she wanted me to beat him. He broke the television.
She said she normally would have
Yeah.
as well.
And she said, and I just looked at him and thought, if I beat you, it doesn't change anything. The TV's still broken. You already know you've messed up. And she said, I just said to my mother, no, I won't hit him. And it was such like what you're talking about there. So it's like our parents say this. God, my fucking parents online now. Our parents say this, our parents say that. Language to it. But it's interesting, we do pick up on those things. And we do, when I've got a kid here, I don't want to pass on half the nonsense I spout on. I hope to be very aware of that. But it was so beautiful listening to that girl talk about that. And there was a lot of breakdown of violence within that group, wasn't there? Like violence was obviously quite a heavy thing in their community. And to hear the violence, less and less violence, less and less violence, was beautiful. And when you can start to see this, when you start to meet people with an open mind, it's like you get to hear them for the first time. When you meet somebody with an open mind, you get to hear them quite often for the very first time. I remember you describing how you and your sister got put together
on a training once. You had to get put in pairs and speak for 3 minutes about something that troubled you, or I think I can't remember, it was so long ago. But you couldn't speak back, you had to just listen. And so then she spoke for 3 minutes, and then we switched and I spoke for 3 minutes.
But you didn't want to be with her, did you?
Well, no, the thing is we were too busy chatting, so we didn't get with other people. So we suddenly realised, we're going to have to go with each other, which seemed really like boring on a training, because we know each other, and this isn't going to be interesting. And then at the end, we were both really emotional. We're like, it's really nice to meet you. Like we actually listened to each other without being sat there waiting to say what we'd normally say back, or thinking we know this already. It just gave us a bit of space, and it was like meeting a new person. But also, when you were speaking, it reminded me in Jack Bransky's book, Modelo, based on the work that Dr. Roger Mills did in Florida, in one of the housing projects. I can't remember the story exactly, but there's a mum that came to one of Roger's trainings who said that the school of her son had phoned her to say he'd been found with a knife. And she was furious. And normally, again, she would have just screamed at him, beaten him, sent him to his room. But she'd been on the training for a while, and she said when he came home, she just told him to go to his room because she knew she wasn't in a calm space. And then a little while later, when she'd calmed down, she spoke to him, and he opened up to her and said that he'd been bullied. So he thought if he took a knife to school, he wasn't going to use it. He just wanted to show them he had a knife because he thought then he wouldn't get bullied anymore. And it completely changed their relationship because he expected her to beat him because that's how the relationship had been before. And a lot of that book talks about stories where people just start not taking things personally and just reacting, letting themselves calm down and come from a different space. And it completely changes like families, and it breaks that cycle. And I think that's what they saw within that project over the 2 years that it was running.
Yeah. And we're back to that tub of paint again, aren't we? That white tub of paint, or the black tub of paint, shall we call it? I think if a relationship is a black tub of paint, and all of a sudden 50% of it, white paint, 50% gets added to the black paint, it changes the colour of that paint. And it's like we get an awful lot of people coming to us who want their partners to change. I want them 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 to change. It's blinding. It's blinding, is this? You don't know what you don't know, and you cannot see what you cannot see. We're always wanting the other person to change, but when you find yourself in a moment of presence, you get to hear that individual. You know how to be with them, Sarah. That's just what you just described. I know how to be with him. I know how to be with my son. Beautiful. Should we have a 10-minute break?
Yeah.
Let's take a 10-minute break. Go and put the kettle on, and then we'll
About
come back.
20 past.
Yeah, about 20 past. If you're all in the UK, which I think we all are.
Sweden.
Apart from
But it's
Julie
still
and
20
Sweden.
It's
Pia.
still 20 past.
Yeah, 20 past. Yeah, it's still 20 past. See that? Welcome back. Sarah's got a brew. That's nice to see. Cool. Right. Anybody else want to say anything? Was that a finger up, Xander?
Oh, I thought he said
Yeah, does I don't know who Mojo is. Does that person want to go first? Again, I'll apologise for that joke earlier. I'll let that person go first, but they're muted.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, Georgie. Sorry, sweetheart.
There you
Hi.
go.
No worries. Thank you. Yeah, it's just something you mentioned, which I can completely understand, which you said democracy is within us. So that's where the freedom lies. And, you know, that's where you'll find democracy. But with what's going on kind of in the world at the moment, with I kind of won't really specify because it's kind of right under our noses, unfortunately. It's quite hard to see that we do have democracy and freedom where things are heading. So find that a little bit of a struggle, if I'm being honest, at the moment, you know, is where I'm at. So I don't know if you can speak to that and I don't know, sort of maybe provide a little bit of hope of, you know, just disregard what's happening out there because it's all bullshit anyway. So, but it's quite hard to ignore that sometimes when you're being pushed into situations or decisions that you don't want to make, that don't feel right, that just don't want to do, or you just don't understand how you got here because I don't know, the way the world's going, we kind of just have to go along with it, I suppose, but it's not a very comfortable ride. So does that make any sense?
Yeah, so is it Georgie?
Giovanna, but I like Georgie, he's sweet.
How do you spell it, love?
Giovanna, Giovanna.
Giovanna.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool, love.
Cool.
Giovanna, where's the world going, love?
Where's the world going? It's a good question. It probably isn't going anywhere. It's just kind of in this zone at the moment, I feel. I guess it could change.
I'm really optimistic.
Are you? That's great. That's good.
Yeah, I am. I think in the short term, we've got some shit to go through. This is me personally. And long term, I'm really optimistic. I don't know. You have to wonder why we've got the likes of Australia clamping down on everyday people. What is going so wrong that places like Australia have shot people in the back as they've run away from protests, not been advertised on the news, it's not been put out on the news. What's going so wrong that things like that are taking place in this world. I think if we start looking at what's going right, I think we'll probably get a more accurate representation of what's truly going on in this world. This is my personal opinion. I think people are waking up left, right, and centre. And I think people are looking at this world and going, governments are corrupt. You know, when we were out in South Africa, they were saying to us, yeah, but your government isn't corrupt, your government isn't corrupt. I said, we were like, our government is so corrupt, it's unbelievable, it just hides it. Our government's good at hiding it, yours doesn't give a shit. If anything, the South African government is more honest than ours. In my opinion, in my opinion, in my opinion. In my opinion. I can't say that's a categorical a fact, but in my opinion, the way I observe things, and I think what's actually happened is something that's actually a really beautiful thing. There will be no need to clamp down on people if somebody wasn't trying to protect something. And who are they protecting it from? 99% of people. It's quite a lump of the population. And I think one of the things that we have had done to us in this world is we have been educated into a way of thinking and into a history of humanity, and we've been told all kinds of things. How to think, what's possible, what's impossible, what's right and what's wrong, who to trust, who not to trust, who to be afraid of. And I think people are slowly just looking around going, well, I don't think that's true. Now we've got a problem on our hands because we've got a population of people that are going, I don't agree with what's going on. I don't agree with what's been going on. I don't believe this. I don't believe that. It's really easy for us to get tied up in the form, the physical, because we're so mesmerized by these senses. What we see, we think it's real. What we hear. We don't realize that just underneath the surface of this reality is everything. It's all a dance of energy. It's created by consciousness. This conversation that we're having now, I've been around this 8 years, principles. I've been around the principles 8 years. Is it 2013? 8 years, I think. And when I first started out, there was nobody in the north. I couldn't tell you how many people in the north now. All those people that wake up to this are changing the world. That's why this is taking place, love. Because consciousness of the planet's changing. And this is just one. My brother-in-law, he's here with us today. He knows plenty of people in the 12-step movement. Those people are having beautiful awakenings. There's another one. There are people who are religious, who want love for the world. There's another group of people. I personally believe what we're seeing now is the dying of an old system. That's the way I see it. I can't see it any other way. Dying of an old system and people who are so entrenched in. I remember talking to a NATO diplomat friend of mine. He has the power to walk straight into Boris Johnson's office without knocking. It's one of our friends, one of our neighbours. Lovely man, I love him to bits. I said to him, what's the greatest problem this world faces in your opinion? He said, an old system, an old structure. with people behind it that aren't prepared to move.
You said rapid change.
And rapid change.
Rapid change without the infrastructures willing to move.
That's right. And it's being forced to move. People don't try and clamp down on people if they're not scared, if they think they have control. They try and clamp down on people if they think they do not have control. They're trying to regain control. I personally think it's too late. I think it's game over.
I think also the other part of that, like I remember we were sat in the garden with a couple of our friends and they were talking about, you know, the potential for the world and where it looks like it might be going. And this conversation was kind of getting more and more intense. And
Who was it?
I took later. And I remember just sitting there thinking, yeah, but right now we're all sat together and the sun's shining and there was just like this hum of bees and
oh yeah.
And I just remember just thinking, yeah, but right now, like I have no idea what the future holds, but right now I'm sat with friends in a beautiful place and I'd love to just be here and appreciate this rather than getting caught up in this imagined future and potential and possibility.
Which we create by the mind.
But I also know that like we have no idea what will show up for us in any potential future that we create or imagine and how we'll deal with it and what we'll learn. And it's so easy to kind of get caught out thinking how terrible something might be, but we also don't know what it's going to be or how we're going to be if it does end up like that. And I think like Cheryl realizing and finding herself present allowed her to be with us, even though there was all this stuff that was still going on in her life and there's a huge amount of uncertainty about someone that she loves dearly, but she was present and was able to be with us. And I think this conversation does allow us to come back to like this moment right now. And we start to see our mind is free. It's free to go off into the future and imagine what it'll be there. It's free to go over and relive the past and hold grudges and be unforgiving, or it's free to think again. And I think that's what I've heard like on the call tonight is people stepping into a new world and everything's still the same as it was on Friday before the retreat or whatever. And then suddenly they're stepping into a new world. And that's where the freedom really lies. It doesn't lie in circumstance. It doesn't lie in where the world is. Because I know that there's countries with hugely restrictive regimes, but there's people within that who are joyful and happy and appreciative of life. And there's people within that feel restricted. And there's people that have spoken about, you know, they've lived in supposedly this, you know, this freer world, and they've felt totally imprisoned in their own mind. Like it doesn't come from out there. And it's been interesting to like, because I've had so many conversations with so many people about what's going on in the world right now. And I just keep coming back to, I don't know. But I know that there's this deeper intelligence that moves people and lives life and does the seasons. And that same intelligence is within humanity. And I don't know, I think I've become more kind of curious just to be here now and see what unfolds. And I catch myself running off into the future, but then coming back. But none of us know. Like I remember we heard a talk and they were saying that every year the world has loads of it's almost like it's
Yeah.
I can't remember how it goes.
Is it called a Kuiper belt or something?
Something like that.
It's a meteorite field which the Earth travels through twice a year. And they say it's like crossing the road with your eyes shut. We just don't know. None of us.
And like if it got hit, it would like knock it off its axis or something. It would just do something. So the world would just be like the Earth would be gone. But yeah, I remember that. Wow. Did not know that.
And I think one of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my entire life was reaching the point where I couldn't take any more of life and thinking the world was a hellhole. And then breaking through that illusion crumbling in front of my eyes and stepping into a whole new world. Realizing it is literally what we are creating in the moment. Now, I know plenty of people who've gone through that, who've gone through what they call the dark night of the soul, where people really, they hit the bottom and they can't imagine being able to step out of it. Where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? There's nowhere to go. I give up. It's funny, the moment we give up, the moment we stop trying, the moment what I've heard tonight is people who just didn't do anything and their lives changed. Give up. Just be present. It's like when that starts to happen en masse, which is happening now. It's already, as far as I'm concerned, it's already happening massively. You stop the world, which is like what's happened with COVID, and you lock people down, you take people out of their everyday life. You get the amount of people who've said to us, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. I've had time to think. What's more important for me? Well, more important for me now, I don't need all that money. What the hell was I doing? Do you know what's important for me? Spending time with family. And I've really enjoyed going out for walks. And I've got into this and I've got into that. And I want to spend more time doing this. I want to spend more. You stop the world, people's minds are going to change. And that's what's happening. You see, the system that we do live in is it's a very rigid structure, really. But it's only held together by belief. The whole system is held together because people believe in it. People don't question. People don't know there's another way to be because people have never thought differently. And that's what we're facing now. We're facing a world population of people who have had their entire life put on pause for X amount of time, and they're starting to think differently. Yeah, it's going to cause mayhem for a little while. As far as the only way I can see it is it's going to cause mayhem for a little while whilst this world balances itself out, because consciousness has changed on the planet. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. Doesn't mean we won't be afraid, doesn't mean we won't hear scary stuff, and it doesn't mean that people around the world aren't going to do horrible things. But what we must start to wake up and realise is what people have been talking about on this community group tonight, is the reality Jen just so beautifully spoke to. We live in the experience of our very own awareness, of our very own consciousness, of our very own thought. There is nothing but that. Think about it logically. Is it remotely possible to experience anything without thought? Anything. I can't think of a single thing. How can you experience anything without thought? How can you experience anything without consciousness? It's like when you look at that, you realize there is nothing but that ever going on. That is the fabric, the foundation of our reality. And Sid then spoke about mind, universal. All these are universal principles. Mind, universal mind. It's a word to describe intelligence of all things. And when you see that, you start to understand reality. Not that you can ever understand it, because I can't understand thought. I can't understand consciousness, and I can't understand mind. The words to describe a force, singular force. But understanding getting to, and this is one of the things that's helping propel the world into a whole new space of being. It's interesting, isn't it? When consciousness shifts, new inventions and stuff come into the world, new possibilities emerge in the world. And that's what's happening.
I think for me as well, it's about the fact that thought just isn't real, and it just takes me down a rabbit hole that I don't want to be in. You know, Jenny said about the weekend, and it was just the fact every time a thought came up, I just recognized it wasn't real. It wasn't there with me in that moment. I could imagine all sorts of things, but I didn't want to go there because that was creating a reality I didn't want to be in, and it wasn't. And even I could see it wasn't a reality because I didn't know. And I think for the first time ever, I was really comfortable in the not knowing and accepting of the not knowing and not wanting to be anywhere else until I did know. And then when I knew what I was, well, not what I was dealing with, not what I was thinking of, because I didn't know. But it, you know, I don't know, I think I've lost it now, but there is something around that about the non-reality of thought and the not getting caught up in the story.
Love it. That was the thing that woke me up. When I listened to Sydney Banks on that YouTube, there was only 3 Sydney Bankses on YouTube at that time. And I remember him talking to these people, and he looked very frail. And he stood up and he said, "You think it's real? It's not real. You only think it's real." He was talking about reality, the dream state of reality. And when I listened to that, I went for a walk, and shortly after that, I got to see what he meant by that. But we play this game of life as a human being. And the human being is a dualistic being. It sees over here and over there. It sees time. It sees you and it sees me. It sees nature and it sees humanity. It sees God and it sees the self. And bit by bit, we're waking up and going, it's not real. That's not true. It's not true. This reality is an illusion. And it's all made of what people are talking about tonight. It's all made of love. I can't explain why that is. I cannot explain why that is. It's just the way it is. I can't claim to know that. But it is interesting when we start to realize we're not suffering the world. We're suffering our own creation. Even with this. Giovanna, does that make sense to you, love? Or does
It
that
does.
fit?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. That's quite a lot said, and yeah, it was really quite amazing actually. What was covered. Yeah, no, that's lovely. I mean, I don't think I can add anything else to that because I kind of feel that there's a lot of potential that anything could be. So, you know, we don't know what the future is going to be. So It could be practically anything. So,
Yeah. And if I have any faith in anything to do with history, kindness always wins out. Love always wins.
yeah, thanks to your comments and journey in explaining. It was really, really powerful, actually.
Everybody's all right. Everybody's all right. Even when they're not. They're all right. Kelly is.
I think also another thing we've started doing it sometimes at the end of community group is sit for normally between 5 and 8 minutes, isn't it? And we just sit quietly and ask people to just picture or imagine sending love into the world. And it's something that I think it was
Lynn McTaggart?
Lynn McTaggart wrote a book called The Power of Eight, and I hadn't even read it. Someone who used to come to community group mentioned it to me, and then we started looking a bit into like the power that with kind of shared intention, and we thought, actually, you know what, we have no idea, but it's worth a go, and it feels really nice. And we did at the end of the retreat, we just all sat together in silence, and some people may have sent healing to
Sure.
that was the separate one, but yeah, like to someone in particular, or it may have been to the world, or it might be to a group of people. But I don't know, like the power within consciousness, like we're not separate. And that's why, like, just being part of the group and hearing how much love has been coming out of people, going from thinking, you haven't spoken to someone in months and you might not want to speak to them again, to suddenly being with them and loving them, and someone that there's been aggro between, and then suddenly you're just showing up fresh. Like the world, that love is what changes the world, and the energy of love, the feeling of love. I don't know. I think it is the most powerful thing.
It's the creative force of the universe. I'm just going to speak one more little bit to that, because there was somebody very close to Jenny and I is hostile about this, what's going on in the world at the moment. She's had her beliefs about it from very early on. And there's a few people on her shit list. I've had some people on my shit list regarding what's going on as well. Have you, Giovanna, have you ever heard of the 100th monkey experiment?
No, it sounds intriguing.
Right. Forgive me, I think I mentioned this did I mention this on the retreat? Yeah, so apologies to everybody else, but I think it's interesting anyway. So she was talking about certain people in the world, how there's us and them. And I was saying to her, no, you must, if we're going to move forward, we must pull them in as well. Let's pull them into our circle, because the only reason why such things will be taking place is because people feel separate and divided. They feel like we're different. They're different to us. We're different to them. This is all a delusion of mind. It's a delusion of mind. We're all the same. No human being has a higher. There is no such thing as hierarchy in reality. Monarchies and government, we're all people. We're all people. We're all the same consciousness. It's all made up. We've made it all up, made up the whole game. And I was explaining this to her, and then I said, have you ever heard of the 100th monkey experiment? She said, no. So I typed into YouTube, 100th monkey experiment, came across this little video, pressed play, and I watched it with her. And the 100th monkey experiment wasn't really an experiment, it was more of an observation. And what they discovered was in Japan, they have the macaque monkey. And along the edge of Japan is an archipelago of islands. And the macaque are on all these islands, and they're on the mainland of Japan as well. And tourists take them sweet potatoes and throw them sweet potatoes because they love them. And the macaque monkeys pick them up and they would try and dust off the sand, and then they'd eat them. And so the monkeys love these, but they love the sweet potatoes, but they hate the sand. Excuse me. But on one of these tourist expeditions, they noted that they saw a baby monkey, one of the young monkeys, pick up its sweet potato and walk down to the water's edge and put it in the water and wash it and then eat it. And its mate saw him, another baby monkey saw him do the same apparently, and he wandered down and he washed his sweet potato. The next day, a couple of the adults saw these monkeys pick up the sweet potato, not even try and dust it off, walk straight down, wash it, eat it. So they did it. The couple of adults joined it. Before long, there was a group of these monkeys on this island who were washing their sweet potatoes. And then all at once, all of a sudden, across all the archipelago of the islands and even onto the mainland of Japan, the macaque started picking up their fruit and washing them. It had reached a critical mass within the consciousness of macaque that without any audible conversation, there was a shift in behavior caused by a shift in awareness, by a shift of thought. It affected the whole. This small group of monkeys had affected the behavior of a whole group of monkeys. They're all one. And so when they realized this, they thought, well, let's try it with humans. Well, let's try it with humans. And so what they drew, they had this face, and within this face, they put 100 faces. So this face was a picture, and they put 100 faces inside this face. And they brought in groups of people, 8 or 10 at a time, and they said, how many faces can you see? And they said, we can see between 7 and 8, maybe 9 was the average, 8 I think was the average. So they did that with a certain amount of people, and then they flew to the UK. This was in Australia, they then flew to the UK. They showed this picture on, I think it was a BBC 2 crappy little program. And on this thing, they just pointed out all the faces within the 100 faces. So people in the UK, they were aware of how many faces were there. They could pick out more, could the UK people, because they'd had them all pointed out. They rung up Australia and said, bring through the next group of people. And what they noted was the number of people who walked through following the airing of that program, the numbers significantly shot up of faces that they could see. And the only thing that had happened was people in the UK halfway around the planet had become aware of it, had become aware of where the faces were. So people in Australia were starting to see more and more and more. If you can get people to think alike, think the same, you affect the whole. Might sound a bit familiar, that. If people start to wake up and change their minds, it affects the whole. And it doesn't take very many to reach that critical mass. This is what's been observed. It's something like, I think it's less than 10%. To reach a critical mass which affects rapid change in the whole. Consciousness is more powerful than the form. The form is created by consciousness. Form does not create consciousness. The form is created by consciousness. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, do more people in this world want hostility and war? I don't think so. I think the average person just wants to be left the hell alone, just to enjoy my life, please, if you don't mind. I just want to be able to do the things I want to do. No, I don't want to go to war with another country. No, I don't. No. No, I don't want to hold you down. No, I don't want to hold you back. No, I don't want to judge you on the colour of your skin. I think the average person just wants a nice life. Consciousness is the most phenomenal thing. We're only just scratching the surface of it. That's why I'm optimistic. Because people are good. There's more beauty in this world than what there is shit. There's more good things going on in this world than what there is crap. I mean, just the news doesn't tell you. Switch the news off. Switch the news off. It's not going to give you any good news. Never has. I had a big shift when I realized the news is a separate reality. No more real than my reality or Jenny's reality or Pia's reality or Angie's. It's just another separate reality on the planet. Why would I take that more seriously than anything else? Google it. 100th monkey experiment. It's brilliant. That's nature for you.
Can I just share one more thing?
Yeah.
And just to do with, just I can already see just since coming back and my actions, the impact that's already had on my girls, and also my ability to deal with situations with my children. I already feel just feel like I'm back, and it also makes me realize that everybody says everyone is you're the best you can be at the time, but I really see how removed I've been. But just in reference to your actions having impacts on other people. Yesterday morning, again, we were very unorganized this week. So my youngest daughter had a swimming lesson at school, but she didn't have a swimming costume. So Vanessa had to come to the house to the flat again, and I went, and again, if she's ever been here, I've never been. I would never acknowledge she'd even, I've denied her existence, I suppose. Anyway, I went out to see her, and just to get the bits, and I said to her that we need to sit down and talk, because there's a lot of issues with especially my youngest, but both my girls with their mum. And I said to her, even if it's with you and David, I'm happy to do that. Even saying the man's name is something I haven't done. And I can see that what I've done this week, there was a flicker of emotion in Vanessa that she never had the ability to show before in any way, shape or form. that was kind of from my upbringing, and just she comes from a very emotionally closed family, and the pride, you know, but I saw literally a tear well in her eye. And yeah, as I say, I've known Vanessa for 24 years. We were together for 21 years. And she never showed emotion, even to the point where this is the biggest example I can give you. It's quite hard for me to say, but before we had Daisy, we lost a baby. Before we had Scarlett, we lost a baby. She never showed emotion. So to even see that yesterday morning, I can see that my actions have opened something in her that I've never seen. So again, it's magic. There's something truly magic going on.
"2,000 years ago, a man named Jesus said, 'I've started a fire.' And that's what happens. People get touched. I'm not claiming to be Jesus, but people get touched by that space within themselves. And when they get touched by that space within themselves, it helps to ignite the next person. And when they find that space within themselves, it helps to ignite the next person, and it spreads like fire. That's why this world's doing what it's doing right now. It's because people are waking up. They're waking up to love. The magnitude within consciousness, the magnitude within the whole. What Denham's talking about there, he hasn't just affected his life, and he hasn't just affected the life of those around him, he has affected humanity. He has taken fear out of the consciousness of humanity and replaced it with love. He's diluted it. He's diluted fear with love. And his ex-wife, she's doing the same because she's shifting. This is no small thing, people. No small thing. I mentioned this on the retreat. When I woke up, every single time I went after that, I never got into a single fight, which was amazing for somebody who got into a fight every time we went out. There wasn't any dickheads there. This is so powerful, what we're talking about. We cannot comprehend it. We just think it's our life. Create the whole game. Create the whole thing. We dream it. Our dream. Nobody can get into your dream. It's yours. Only if you allow them. Only if you believe they can. It's your will that allows it in. But when you wake up and you realize it's your own dream, you do protect yourself. It's like, look after your consciousness. If there's stuff that you know pisses you off, stop picking at the scab of it and leave it alone. If there's stuff that harrows your soul, stop watching it, turn it off. It's not bringing you any positive, leave it alone. You can call it sticking your head in the sand. What is reality? There is no sand. These are all things I've had to learn. things I have to remind myself of. Some politicians, if I'd seen them in the street last year, on certain days, they wouldn't be here now. But I have to remind myself, where do I want to live? How do I want to live? What do I want this world to look like? Gandhi's saying, be the change you want to see in the world, correct?
Oh, see, now there's the voice of reason. That's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for Rusty to turn up.
Well, to this bollocks. Absolutely not. I've been fast asleep. I don't listen to this crap anymore. In fact, I'm really thankful I'm deaf. You're all idiots. Look at you all. Listening to this crap. Finished.
He's found something at dinner.
No, he hasn't. He's found his dew claw. He's ripped his dew claw off. Anybody else got anything they want to say, ask, talk about? Get to meet you on Saturday. Scarlett?
Yeah.
Get to meet you on Saturday, love. Looking forward to it.
And I'm very excited. I feel very lucky that we're in a position where, you know, the girls see Jenny's dad, Peter, who is just the most wonderful person, isn't he? Yeah, just a beautiful person, let alone Bilbo. But yeah, no, I feel I'm very excited. I feel very lucky that my girls are going to meet you, because I've obviously come home and spoken about all of you, and told your individual stories to the girls as well. So yeah, just
Scarlett,
I feel very lucky.
Scarlett, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you all right with that?
Wait, don't show me.
What? Don't show what? The whole face. Okay, go.
Pardon?
Are you all right with that?
Yeah.
Have you noticed a change in your dad?
Yes. Very much. Yes.
Oh, can you tell us a bit or not?
You can talk. You can talk. Just like so.
Just the stuff I want you to say. Just the stuff I want you to say.
It kind of like, it's the fact that he just came in, like came to the door and then just spoke to David and like, I don't know. It was yeah.
Yeah. But all of that, I would never have done anything like that, would I? I've tried to almost didn't.
Me a bit.
But it was the pair of them were very, as I said, it threw them very much. But you know, it's the way it needs to be, doesn't it? Ultimately, because this is where we are. For right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But you know, we've all got to, even what I'm about to say. This has caught me. You know, we've got to be one big family. And I took such inspiration from your family, Dave, and the story that you tell. And again, I've told you about that as well. Yeah, I've come and shared as much as I possibly could. You know, yeah, it just shows that you just do the right thing. Just do what's in your heart, and you know, and then it feels effortless, and it just flows, and that's it.
Beautiful.
Scarlett, how proud are you of your dad?
Very.
I can see it in your face.
And she knows lots about you as well, Cheryl.
Sorry?
And she knows lots about you as well.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, of course she does. Mhm.
I'm looking forward to meeting you, Scarlett.
Same. I'm looking forward to meeting you too.
Yeah, that'll be nice. We'll go up Porridge's and have a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's all right. We could put it on their tab.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It's been so nice to see everyone. So we'll leave you there,
Bless
and
you.
we'll see you. And we'll see you on
Saturday.
Saturday. Oh, and before I go, just how exciting! A little baby girl.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
We're having a girl.
Mwah. Oh, so excited.
Just so
Lovely.
people know we're having a girl. That's dead exciting.
Yeah. Lots of love. We'll see
Bless
you.
you, both.
Saturday.
Lots of love yourself. See you both Saturday.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
Aw.
Mwah. Oh,
Can we do minutes?
we've come to the end. I think it's a good time to end. Is everybody happy to do 5 minutes? 5 minutes of just sitting quietly. Okay, Kel's saying 8 minutes. Any advance on that? Everybody, should we do 8 minutes? Sarah saying 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Julie's nodding.
Well, the book is called The Power of Eight, and it's a power of
All right,
eight
we'll do it.
minutes.
All right, we'll do 8 minutes.
It's more than 8 people, but I think that makes it even more.
We're going to stop this recording because people probably
Oh,
won't
yeah.
want to watch this, who catch up with us.
Stop.
Thank you, everybody.